Edition. I'm Keith D'Souza. This is the Property Show, and in light of hints dropped by the U.S. Federal Reserve that interest rates may be coming down. Some analysts have put it at about 50 basis points. We're also in the midst of a U.S.-China trade war. How has this affected buying sentiment here, or even borrowing sentiment here in Singapore? Well, to put things in perspective for us this morning is Paul Hall. Paul is the Chief Mortgage Officer at iCompare Loan. Paul, welcome into the program, and it's your first, sort of appearance on Asia First, the all-new CNA938. Thank you for doing this, sir.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm glad to be appearing on CNA938.
So let's talk about the scenario that I just said. Interest rates coming down. Do you think this is going to have a knock-on effect, first and foremost, to buyer sentiment here in Singapore? Who doesn't like cheap money? But here in Singapore, we're a different kettle of fish. We don't know whether banks will lower their interest rates at this particular juncture in time.
Yeah, I think currently the SIBOR is still hovering at about 1.88% for a 1-month SIBOR. And the interest rates being charged for home loans are still in the 2.1%, 2.2% rates vicinity, right? So if SIBOR doesn't drop, that is very unlikely that the banks will reduce the home loan rates below what the SIBOR is, right? Because SIBOR is a benchmark cost. If they can actually lend the money to the market for the SIBOR to the other banks, then why don't they do that rather than give it to you cheaper than what they can offer to other banks?
Indeed. So thereby lies the rub. So Paul, in this situation, we have also coupled with the U.S.-China trade war. Has this affected borrowing sentiment here at all? Investors, property investors here in Singapore?
Borrowers still like to borrow. Right, if they are saying that, can I borrow money? And a lot of them are actually looking to refinance, and they said, why has the thing changed? I thought it wasn't that difficult before. Why is the bank not lending me? I have money. I have. So I said, where's your money? I have 200,000 here. I have 2 properties. I have cars. I have this company, that company. I said, well, at the end, it is not about how much property that you have. It is, the Singapore banking system for bank borrowing and home loan borrowing has changed from an asset-based lending criteria, meaning how much assets you have, to an income-based assessment criteria based on total debt servicing ratio. So when you say income-based, it means that you have to earn that income in order to be able to service your loan, right? Doesn't matter how much income, how much assets you have. You may be 75 years old, 80 years old, and you have a lot of assets, and your assets earning you may not earn you that much money, but you can always sell the asset. But the banks are not keen to take your asset, right? They are not keen at all to take your assets. The role of the bank is not to take assets. The role of the bank is to lend you money and earn interest income from that money.
Right. So with the TDSR in effect here, it affects all borrowers, foreign or local buyers?
TDSR?
Yes.
It affects both. So if you have if you are a local buyer, definitely TDS applies, because TDS is based on your exposure to Singapore.
Yeah, your credit card spend, your other loans that you have servicing your car perhaps as well.
Exactly, everything. So if you are a foreigner, then they will be looking at your total debt servicing ratio in Singapore, obviously. So if you have zero record in Singapore and you're a foreigner trying to borrow from Singapore, then you would need to come on board to one of the banks as a priority customer. Could be private banking customer or priority customer, and so that the banking system or the credits actually know you. How do they define by knowing you? So you would probably need to work with someone, or you can work with us so that we can qualify you, bring you to the bank, and then we will assess you, ask you a series of questions to know that you're not well, we wouldn't know exactly, but we try to know that you're not money laundering or anything like that. Then, if you bring in like $300,000, $350,000, bring you to the bank and to onboard you as a bank customer of the bank.
Sure.
Yeah.
So that's one way. Another situation just last July, the additional buyer's stamp duties on perhaps people who have more than one property.
Yes.
Has this, bitten? Have these cooling measures sunk in here in Singapore yet?
Very much so. I think after the measure has come in, we saw that the last 2 quarters after the measure has sunk in, the property price index actually dropped by minus 0.1 and minus 0.2 or 0.3, if I can recall. It's a slight drop. It went from going up
Right.
to 2 quarters of slight drop.
Sure.
Which means that the brakes have managed to halt
It's slowing the
Yeah.
fire or the
Yeah.
furor in the property market.
Yes, so it has basically put a stop and slightly reverse gear in the property prices rising. Going forward, I think people tend to get used to it. So I have actually starting to have buyers come in and I said, are you aware, sir, that if you're buying a second property, you are subjected to additional buyer stamp duty
Right.
of 12%? If you are a Singapore citizen, if you are PR, 15%, right? And if you're a foreigner, 20, well, of course, 20% flat for foreigners, regardless of how many you buy.
It's always been said that the Chinese property investor in Singapore has been, hasn't waned in our property market. Am I right or am I wrong, sir?
Yeah, except for the headlines when you say that so and so, high profile investors from maybe Alibaba or WeChat or whatever tech company has gone IPO or of hundreds of billions of dollars, and this person bought a $50 million condo or apartment or penthouse and so, right? Those were more headlines. So you will see that 1 or 2 or 3 of those headlines from time to time. In actual fact, the Chinese buyers are not coming back yet.
Right.
Having said that, the additional buyer stamp duty may actually halt some Chinese buyers. It is actually not able to stop Chinese buyers from buying Singapore properties. To put that in perspective, if you go to new cities, or up and coming cities where there is a development or there is a government development plan, maybe building a port, maybe building a railroad, maybe building a high speed rail, maybe building a railroad, rail transport hub or something like that, or even building a school or university. Or even a science park, right? So a lot of infrastructure investments are going into China in the whole of those places. What you see in the property price is actually, we are talking about $50,000 renminbi for per square meters, or 80,000 renminbi per square meters in Hong Kong.
Wow.
Not Hong Kong, Guangzhou. Right, so people are buying in at 50,000 in a fairly outskirt area, and when development comes, it sort of like goes 30%, 50%, and in some cases double, triple, right, within a span of 2 to 3 years.
So you were in China recently, and a friend of yours did this.
I was in China last week, and one of my friend bought a property in outskirt in Guangzhou. So he bought it for 2 years ago at, can't remember the price though. It was a 2,000 over square feet condominium. And after 2 years into now, the price of the property has gone up 3 times, right? 3 times, not 30%, it's 300%, right? So that is the kind of magnitude we are looking at from Chinese buyers. Obviously, the difficulty for them is actually foreign currency exchange control, right?
Getting the money out.
Getting the money out of China. If getting the money out of China is of no concern, then basically, if you will tell them that this is an up and coming area and a lot of our property agent friends will be doing that and pitching that this is up and coming, this is the seaside, this is the the future
The new
hub, the
waterfront.
hub, waterfront hub, the Pasir Panjang or whatever, right? Then you would see them buying without thinking twice at 20% additional buyer stamp duty.
Paul Ho is the Chief Mortgage Officer at I Compare Loan. You are listening to The Property Show on Asia First, the weekend edition. I'm Keith D'Souza. We will be back with Paul in just a moment. We need to pay some bills here on the all-new CNA938. Stay with us. Good morning.